When we think of Travis Scott from the view of a listener, we might think of stadium arenas, Autotune, explosions, and Lamborghini. But from an artist and engineer's perspective, the most interesting part of his sound would be his gradual shift in musical style over the span of his young but successful career. A textbook example of a millennial producer turned megastar. I've come to realize we all have that one song that made us go, huh, I wonder how that was made, which somehow got us to where we are now, skim reading tech blogs and binge watching YouTube videos trying to uncover the well-guarded techniques on how albums and songs end up sounding the way they do. It's easy to see how Kanye's 808 and Heartbreaks laid the path for Travis's grimy and destructive vocal style, while Kid Cudi's relaxed persona added to his ambient and psychedelic sound and image. Mix together his Jackboy desert cowboy attitude with his heavily hometown Houston roots, and you have a whole recipe for an interesting sound. Now, because I'm a gearhead, it would be hard to deny the fact that the equipment and methods used to record music truly do have an impact on an artist's overall sound. Scream into a USB mic and you get modern day grunge. Sing into a vintage AKG C12 in $1 million recording facility and you might end up with the same vocal tone as Mariah Carey. So when it comes to Travis's vocal style, what caused the shift from a clean mainstream sound we would consider professional to a more distorted and heavy tone, similar to the sound of a guitar running through a pedal board? It could be linked to his time spent around Kanye and Mike Dean during Good Music's Cruel Summer, and then seeing every rule of music get broken during Yeezus' creation, but I feel there's more to it. When we look back to 2013, we see a moment in time when modern hip-hop was at its most formal, with the likes of Drake, J. Cole, and Lil Wayne dominating the Billboard charts with a solidified industry sound. It may have seemed impossible for any new acts to survive a summer against such heavy opposition. Upcoming artists were introduced by the week via powerful labels with seemingly endless budgets, but near to none seemed to last longer than a few hits. The true and tested formula seemed to have been coming to an end. It seemed the sound of a modern hip-hop record was slowly becoming a popular but common stock. Clean vocals with catchy hooks over Atlanta-themed trap beats was the new norm, but if that was the case, why were only a few artists catching all the attention? Well, for us to truly understand why certain artists and movements outlast others, we must first look at how fans seem to accept a musical act. From my perspective, when we hear new music from an upcoming artist, we can either like it or not. That's obvious, of course. We could also, however, see potential in what may come to be. It's clearly evident that Travis had potential to be a star in his first breakthrough mixtape. But looking at tracks like Upper Echelon, we get to see an early example of what would soon become his sound. This is the crossroad that artists with their bubbling careers seem to come to. On one side, they could play it safe and stick to whatever's hot at the moment, hoping to perfectly synchronize with whatever else is out there. On the other end of the spectrum, they could choose to completely flip the script and rework their sound from the ground up. The second option seems to be the harder route to follow, but with great trials come great rewards. The most highly acclaimed goal one would be able to achieve would be a seat at the table of hip-hop. Having a uniquely identifiable sound is what would get you there and solidify your name amongst the greats. So it would seem to make sense Travis would delay Days Before Rodeo to figure out and solidify his sound first. But during Days Before Rodeo, we really don't get any distortion on the vocals. We get more of his kind of cadence, his style, his straight up kind of vibe going, but really no distortion. It seems more on Rodeo we started to really get that distorted vibe, so I would probably think Mike Dean has something to do with that. And the reason I say that is because his name is pretty much scattered all over the credits page of Rodeo, and if you know a bit about Mike Dean, you would know that he is what we call an in-house producer, basically meaning he likes to have oversight over a project, really helping scape the sounds, mix everything, make sure that the additional production is added. So to me it seems that was the moment where we really get that glimpse into that distorted vocal style. The track that sticks out to me is 90210, and as well as Oh My Decide, Wasted, we really get that kind of glistening vocal tone. Now, as you know, it does take a few years for sounds to be developed, and that's why you can kind of see, with Travis's tapes prior to Astroworld, we really get a more dirty, distorted style, whereby on Astroworld itself, you've really got kind of the pinnacle of that sound so far. So for today's video, I will concentrate on getting more of that kind of gritty, rough mix, straight kind of, banger style vocal that Travis would do on features and that kind of thing. And then if we hit 300 likes, I will do a separate video on getting a more kind of clean cut and mainstream Astroworld sound. Obviously, if you cop this template, I will provide you with a discount on the other one. So if you're into that, stick around. what I have is the I actually got a track from Future with Travis's vocals, so that would be Solitaire, and I really just like the way the vocals sounded, so that's what we're going to be remixing today, and then we'll just be breaking down some cool techniques. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright man, so let's get into it right now. As you can see, we got this track right here, so we'll play a little bit of it and then we'll break down the vocal chain we have going on. We got some cool stuff, you know, that I will show you today, but yeah, let's get into it.
Every diamond's for my dog inside the way.
Yeah, solitaire diamonds look like Pikachu. Bitch, I came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money, then I make it do a backflip. She just said I'm ballin', but really I think I'm average. Fucking up a check, I got rid of my bad habits. Been up in the trap back, ooh, I think it's magic. Ooh, I think they like me in my new black tee.
Taking all this money, got my screws loose.
Alright, there you go. Probably gonna get that good copyright strike, but yeah man, as you can see, we have a pretty cool vocal sound going, and then I'll show you how to really get that consistency, how to get that kind of distortion. I'll also show you how to crank the distortion to a new level. You know, some of you like to have more distorted vocals. You know, the thing, as I said earlier, was that Travis Scott's sound is obviously, you know, it kind of varies from time to time because, you know, he probably travels a lot and is mixing in different studios, different places. So yeah man, it'll be pretty cool sound to achieve. So first things first man, for those who are new to the template format, you know, we've always got our mic input channel that we can navigate or send towards any of these green channels right here. So as you can see, we can go control left click, control left click, control left click, and that will allow us to listen to different vocal chains. So as you can see, the main one is obviously going to be our main rap vocal, which is then sent to the vocal chain, and that's where we have all of our effects going on. On top of that, we've got a double, and then we've got a sing kind of thing going on in the background, as well as an ad-lib. But yeah man, we'll obviously be breaking down the main rap vocal. So if I was to turn off everything besides the Autotune, just so you can get an idea of what's going on, I will do that for you. So we'll leave the Autotune on, and then we'll turn off this vocal chain.
Every diamond's for my dog inside the way.
Yeah, solitaire diamonds look like Pikachu. Bitch, I came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in.
So as you can see, we've got quite an overly loud vocal. It's a bit boxy and it needs refinement. It needs that additional distortion. So that's really what we're trying to achieve. So I'll turn everything back on and then we'll start breaking everything down, man. So the first thing that I obviously do always is Autotune. So Travis Scott does not seem to use the, what I like to call the Young Thug effect, which is really just to pull your natural vibrato down and then turn or hit this knob right here. So we don't do that with this vocal effect because the Autotune doesn't seem to sound so good. It doesn't kind of relate to Travis's sound. So this is the Autotune we're doing, 0 obviously, and then if you're using Autotune 8, you're free to adjust this correction style and humanize. I generally keep them the same because they seem to work with my voice. You'll obviously manipulate as you like. Definitely use whatever Autotune, you know, you into. It doesn't really matter, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do, man. After that, I use a little bit of NoiseGate that was just on in my default template, so I just kept it there. You know, if you do have a bit of a noisy room, you can apply a NoiseGate to your vocal. It's going to help clean it up. So after that, man, what I did was smash my vocal into a compressor. That's the first thing I'll generally do. And as you can see, these are the settings. If I was just to kind of play you what's going on, you can kind of see when this meter goes to the left, it means we are compressing. So check that out.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money, then I make it do a backflip. She just said I'm ballin', but really I think I'm average. Fucking up a check, I got rid of my bad habits.
As you can see right there, we do like 5-7 dB of compression at max, but really it's just there to, you know, kind of make sure things don't get too loud before we hit the vocal chain. So what I wanted to do to add a bit of nice kind of classic character to the vocal was add a little bit of this new, I'm demoing this new Neve 1084, just to kind of see if we can get additional distortion out of the vocal sound. But what we can also use, man, if you want to use some free VSTs, is definitely the channel 7. This is something I have been recommending on the channel for a long time. It has a Neve console emulation, and you can just crank the drive and get a similar thing going on to what I'm doing. As you can see, I'm not using this kind of preamp section. I'm also using the fader. I think it has a little bit of a different sound, and then I just turn the output down. So really all I'm doing is driving the signal, and we get a little bit of distortion added. So pretty cool. You can try that for yourself. I'm not EQing anything, or I am actually just doing a little bit of a 12k boost, nothing crazy, just a little bit of a Neve flavor. So, you know, once we send our vocal to the vocal chain, this is where we start doing a lot of mixing. So we are using quite a few Waves plugins and a cool air distortion from Air. I always recommend people to buy the pack. You know, you guys don't want to buy the packs, they're on sale always for like 20 bucks, you know, so check them out. So, you know, that's how we get that character, and we'll crank that up later so you can see what that sounds like. But excuse me, you know, first thing I like to do is a little bit of SSL. So I decided to use the Waves SSL this time around, just so you could you know, see that I don't mind which one I'm using. They all have a little bit of a different flavor, but generally still do the same thing. So what I did was, at first I had the high pass quite high, so I had it probably around like 107 or something, but I dipped it back a little bit just to 80, just so I could allow a bit more of that warmth kind of and weight of the vocal to pass through in the mix. After that, man, I did a little bit of a treble boost at, you know, 8k, 7.5k, and I didn't do much there. I did quite a roll off for 200. I love rolling off 200 with the SSL EQ. Sounds really cool, sounds really natural. And then again doing another 2 dB cut, just to kind of you know, get rid of some of the lows again and just balance out the vocal, you know. So that's what we do. After that, man, air distortion. So if I turn this off, you can kind of hear what's happening.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice.
So it's cool, right? All the EQs and all the compressors in the vocal chain are doing their job, but it just doesn't have that kind of extra Travis weight, kind of Travis distortion going on. So if I turn this on,
came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo.
It's almost like we can suddenly hear the treble starts to really distort a little bit. Could this be the plugin Travis uses? Who knows? Maybe Travis is distorting a Neve preamp or something. I don't know. But this works, you know. And if I was to turn this up, so you can see we got 14% going. I kind of settled on this value. I haven't touched any of the other settings right here. But if we were to turn this up, you can kind of hear how much more grungy the vocal becomes. So if you wanted to do, you know, a more, because some of the songs by Travis are definitely crazy distorted. So if you wanted to achieve that sound, you could just turn this mix knob up.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Yeah. Get the money, then I make it do a backflip.
So, you know, just blending in 14% for me works. I would go up to like 22. I had it set to 22 yesterday, and then I listened again. I was like, nah, I'll tone it back a little bit, just to kind of, you know, make sure it's consistent. But, you know, this works. There's a fly in here, unfortunately. But yeah, you get the idea, man. So after that, man, we're going to be doing a little bit of de-essing. So at first I didn't have a de-esser on, but I quite like how it kind of smoothens the vocal out. Really simple, don't really need to go through it. As you can see, 16 dB going on right there. So after that, man, RVox, definitely going to RVox the vocal. So after that, man, we're going to do a little bit of RVox. So as you can see, this is the amount of RVox we're doing, not too much.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop.
So these two plugins are definitely staples when it comes to rap vocal mixing in general, not just Travis's sound, but you can definitely hear Travis gets that distortion which fills up the treble of his voice, and then he uses a de-esser possibly just to kind of tone it. Maybe you could even use the de-esser before the distortion to get a more smoother sound, but I wanted to keep it quite grungy. Compression wise, we're not really doing much compression. So after that, man, what I did was a little bit of EQ. And this is the EQ I'm doing, really kind of simple and sweet. It's kind of following a similar to SSL style EQ, getting rid of some of the lows, you know, high passing with a nice kind of, you know, musical slope. After that, man, I do a little bit of cutting right here, you know, 2 dB, 2.3 dB max, around 350, around 230, really just a nice critical EQ, just to clean things up. And then this was the last EQ I added actually to the mix, which is just a little bit of a boost right there. And I'm just doing a little bit of cutting right here. I feel like, you know, things can get a bit too sizzly if you are distorting your vocals, so you definitely want to make sure that this is tamed around like, you know, 4K, 5K, up to like 8K. You want to deal with that and just make sure it's not too grungy, and then you can really boost the air after that, because then you should have a nice smooth kind of open treble sound to boost, since you've done your de-essing and since you've added your distortion to really smooth things out. So there you go, pretty cool. After that, man, our compressor just to help kind of tame that treble, because if you're boosting, you want to compress afterwards, maybe sometimes, just to make sure that frequencies don't pop back out. So basic compressor, nothing really special going on. After that, man, this is a cool plugin which I don't really use too much, but for the Travis sound definitely helps. So I will actually turn this off so you can hear.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop.
So there's something really interesting, there's something definitely interesting about this band right here. These two bands, actually, we can say. and that is that, you know, you get this kind of endless air effect going on when you actually use this plugin. It just like opens up the vocal sound, you know, so you definitely want to mess around with that. As you can see, I just do a 20 boost. It's really going to vary on, you know, depending on your mic. For example, if you had a already bright mic, you might not want to boost as much, but definitely try this out and mess around and see what happens. After that, man, what I like to use is a little bit of flanger. For some reason, I'm actually not using any today, so I'm actually not doing anything. I don't know why it went down to 0, but it is what it is. It's just on here as a vocal thickener. It does delay the vocal a little bit, but obviously 0% doesn't mean I'm doing anything. Maybe if we turn it up, let's see if it changes in sound.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money, then I make it do a backflip.
So who knows if that 0% is doing anything. I just realized now that it's on 0 is what it is. What you can also use is use the meta flanger by Waves as a replacement for this, because I quite like the way the meta flanger will kind of do something to your vocal. What you could do is you could spread it and then just blend it in 4%, man, and that's going to give you that similar sound, you know.
Came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money, then I make it do a backflip. She just said I'm ballin', but really,
you know what I mean? So you could definitely try that out if you like. What I also did right here is you actually heard the little tape stop that goes on in the vocals. So what I did was, there you go. Right there, we've got this thing that goes on.
Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money.
So as you can see, I mixed it in parallel so it doesn't go too crazy. But if I was to copy that and then just
Jordan 23, make it alley-oop. Get the money, then I'm...
So I obviously don't want that to happen, so I just blend it in so it kind of creates this cool volume difference, you know, and there you go. So after that, man, we'll do some doubles real quick. I'm lazy today, man. I have not labeled anything, so I don't know what is going on, but I'll just kind of give you an overview of my double situation. I've got a doubler going on, I've got a sing, and I've got an ad-lib. Okay, so we'll kind of see what we can solo and see what we can do right here.
Zoo, cause I got the juice. Alley-oop. Do a backflip.
So that's kind of a cool Travis sound, you know, double thing going on. I don't know what this is. What is this? That's gonna give you our kind of Hunter Jack, you know, long reverb sound. This is just my general kind of chain, you know what I mean, going on right there. Doubler, you know, I just use the same thing over and over again, and it seems to work. I just kind of tweak as needed. But yeah, that's pretty much what we do. There was another one somewhere. I don't know what. Maybe it's this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all of the doubles that we have going on. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff, man. Reverbs, you know, if you tune in every week, you should know by now what's going on. Mastering stuff, we don't actually do anything besides a limit at the end. I'm not doing any gains since we wanted to keep it consistent to what the original sounded like. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it, man. A little bit of parallel compression. We do actually have, interestingly enough, I did record a few H3000, for those who know about my Eventide H3000. It's a really cool 80s device that you can use to double your vocals. So I've got this going on. I will recreate this for the free VST version, but you know, if you want to see.
Solitary diamonds look like Pikachu. Bitch, I came up out the gutter, came up out the zoo. Bump and screw in the coupe, bitch, I got the juice. It's that Jordan 23, make it alley-oop.
So it's kind of this cool thing that goes on in the background. We also have a cool little reverb room going on. That's just a cool, nasty, cheap sounding 80s reverb. And when you mix those two things together. What I also have, man, is really cool. There's a pitch shifter on this device. This is where all pitch shifters kind of got the idea of kind of doing stuff like that came from. Where, you know, parts of the track I've kind of allowed to have this low voice going on. So obviously the whole thing together would just sound like, you know. So obviously just on certain parts I want that to come in. So, you know. You know, and that's pretty cool as well. We've also got some crazy delays going on as well. Classic Mike Dean stuff. you know, and whatever, man, just some cool, interesting stuff that just kind of come in here and there on the track. But nonetheless, man, hopefully you enjoyed the sound of this track. Definitely check out the links in the description for my courses as well as for this FLP. If you do not have any of these plugins, feel safe that I have created a FreeBST version of this, which will use FreeBSTs that are modeling the same thing, like the air windows, for example, that I showed you there. There's so many cool plugins that I can make use of to get a similar sound. But yeah, man, I'll check you next time. Peace out.